Ratcliffe stepped in to make sure Kobbie Mainoo did not leave Manchester United this summer. Could Kobbie Mainoo even be viewed higher than Ruben Amorim? We're going to talk about Onana and Amorim, what is really going down. There's a few rumours, speculations about Amorim and Onana's relationship, some suggestions that it's not very good. We obviously know that Onana requested a 25% wage increase, which obviously didn't go down well with Ruben Amorim. I mean, the audacity to even think that he could get a 25% wage increase. But yeah, we're going to talk about that situation. But a new offer is coming for Onana, and could he finally go? Turkish clubs and Saudi clubs are the only clubs that are able to give Onana the wages he wants, and they're the only clubs with their transfer window still open. And Benjamin Sesko has spoken about sort of life. I say life in Manchester, I meant life in the Premier League at Manchester United. So we will talk about that and some of his comments. So hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news roundup, where we're going to be rounding up all the news around Man United in 10 minutes for you guys. The transfer window is over, but it's not completely over as we talk about Onana's future. But one player that didn't go, and that's because we signed a midfielder, is Kobbie Mainoo. And INEOS do not want him to go, and let's talk about it. Sir Jim Ratcliffe was involved in the decision to not let Kobbie Mainoo go. I have mixed thoughts in the sense of Sir Jim Ratcliffe has employed footballing experts. Footballing experts should make the decisions at the club, and it shouldn't be too influenced by the Glazers and Ratcliffe because they're not footballing experts. But at the same time, I agree. We should not let Kobbie Mainoo go. Even if we sign Baleba, we don't let Kobbie Mainoo go because Baleba is meant to play with Mainoo. And the reason I was so against Mainoo going is because we have a lot of issues in build-up in the centre of the park at keeping the ball and progressing it that Mainoo could solve. That's what, he offers solutions to some of Amorim's problems, but I don't think Amorim has quite realised that yet or been able to make it work due to how much ground he wants his players in the pivot to cover. Romano also mentioned that Mainoo loves the club and he's very happy at Man United, but he's unhappy about his playing time. I mean, when you're told you're going to be competing with Bruno Fernandes for playing time, you've basically been told you're not going to play. You can't blame Mainoo, you're not going to play. If he's competing with a guy in Casemiro, it's different, but he's not that kind of player. He's been told he's competing with Bruno, which basically him being told he's not going to play. Interesting months ahead if if he plays, the situation will be okay. If he doesn't play, we're looking at January loan move, we're looking at something potentially there. He just wants to play ahead of the Euros. Now, he only wants to go out on loan because he loves the club and he wants to make it work and he wants minutes. I also think he's probably tactically wanted to go out on loan because he probably believes he can outlive Amorim at the club at this current state in time. Well, some people might not like that mindset, but realistically, we can't sit here confidently and say Amorim's going to survive the season. I hope Amorim survives the season. I hope Amorim succeeds. But if you're a player at Man United that's young and incredibly talented, and this manager's come in that doesn't really rate you, this manager's not doing well and has, a bad points per game record, you know that if you go on loan, you could potentially outlive the manager. Now, I do think that Amorim rates Mainoo highly, and if it's not Amorim, sorry. I think INEOS and Ratcliffe rate Mainoo highly. And I do think if Amorim doesn't get results soon, they may look at it and go, well, he's not getting the best out of Mainoo. And that could cause some issues for him because this report came out last year. And it was said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is poised to make Kobbie Mainoo the new face of Manchester United. Jim believes that Mainoo embodies the value and aspirations of Manchester United and is convinced that making him the face of the club will inspire the new generation of fans and players alike, while also boosting the club's public perception. The process will involve significant public relations and marketing efforts showcasing Mainoo's journey with United and rise with the England national team. Well, obviously that's on stall because he's not the England national team. Now look, if Amorim does really well and Mainoo doesn't perform, we have to look at options that maybe it's not going to work for Mainoo at Man United. But I believe there's such a good, talented player in Mainoo that I really hope that he starts to get minutes under Amorim, and I really hope Amorim succeeds. But I do think if we're at Christmas time, 15th, and Amorim's trying to offload Mainoo, and we're 15th at Christmas time, I do think INEOS might look at that and go, do they consider getting a manager to get the best out of Mainoo? And I'm not saying sack a manager for Mainoo. Mainoo has to do more. He has to, when he gets his opportunities, he has to prove more. But I'm saying, if things were going bad, and with Mainoo being reportedly so highly rated, now obviously you don't want to give him that element of player power, it could be something INEOS consider. I feel like I've worded that really badly. I feel like I've worded that so badly. I'm not saying they're going to be in a situation where they have to choose between Amorim and Mainoo's so powerful they will choose Mainoo over Amorim. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if Amorim wasn't doing well and they had to choose, if Amorim is doing well, Mainoo is out the door. I don't know if that makes sense. But look, I just hope that we don't even have to have this conversation in 3 months and that Mainoo was playing and doing well under Amorim. I really hope that. Look, Mainoo hasn't been good enough in his opportunities under Amorim, but the system doesn't suit him. And I think Amorim and Mainoo should work together to find a solution to that. Now, let's talk about Onana. Because I read this as Onana's basically been told he needs to step up. So there was a lot of rumours about Onana and Amorim's situation being bad. Of course, Amorim wasn't happy with Onana asking for a wage increase. We obviously know that Onana's been dropped from the opening 3 Premier League games, which Onana was taken by surprise for. So we know that the relationship between Amorim and Onana, isn't great. There was also rumours of some kind of fallout, but it was never reported by anyone reliable, and I think it was sort of made up. There's a lot of fake news that comes out. Romano did say, Andre Onana and Ruben Amorim still have a good relationship. Ruben Amorim is very clear with his message that whoever wants to play must perform at the best level, not just for Onana, but for all of his players. Look, that Amorim's message is: if you don't perform, you're not going to play, and he's got to stick with that. The players that don't perform get dropped. Give other players an opportunity. The relationship is fine, but he's not playing because he hasn't been good enough, and that's fair. We signed Lamens because he hasn't been good enough, and that's fair. Like, I don't think there's big drama between Ruben Amorim and Onana. I just think it's that Ruben Amorim doesn't feel that Onana's been good enough because he hasn't been good enough and wants a better option. And I think the media will make it out to be big drama and all of this. And this isn't just Onana, this is a standard he holds all his players to, by the way. Now, interestingly, the club from Turkey that I can never pronounce its name correctly have contacted Manchester United over a loan deal for Onana, and there's now reports that there's sort of offers coming in to take Onana on loan. Now, ideally, I'd like to see Onana go permanently. But letting Onana go permanently will be difficult because I think his book value is still around 28 million, so we'd need someone to basically give us 30 million for Onana and cover his wage demands and hope that Onana wants to go. There was reports that Onana was open to a Saudi move. He's potentially open to leaving Man United, but other sources suggest that Onana is more than happy to stay at Manchester United and fight for his place because he wants to make it work. It was also reported by Sports PO that United could sell Onana to the Saudi Pro League in order to reshuffle their goalkeeping department, and the Saudi window is open till September 23rd. We know from reports that United would like to ideally sell Onana to Saudi. We want to get rid of one of Onana and Bayindir. There was interest from Turkish clubs in Bayindir. That seems to have gone away. There was interest in Onana from Saudi clubs reportedly ages ago, but actually that none of that ever materialised and it wasn't actual interest. But now, there's not as many players available on the market and the Saudi clubs still have the market open. They may look at Andre Onana. I think he'd be open to a Saudi move. There were suggestions he'd be open to a Saudi move. Or Turkey. I think one of the goalkeepers could go. I think United are going to probably try and push one of the goalkeepers out, but I don't know if it'll be Onana or Bayindir. I think it's probably easier to offload Bayindir. I think one of the main reasons we got Lamens and didn't go for Donnarumma is because Donnarumma's wage demands were so crazy. We couldn't have Onana and Donnarumma both on the books, where you can have Onana and Lamens both on the books, because Lamens isn't expected to come in and start right away. Lamens is expected to come in and eventually challenge Onana and take the place. But I do think with Onana's recent form, Lamens could just come in and start right away. So yeah, let's continue on into stories about Benjamin Sesko. Now, some people are freaking out that Benjamin Sesko's not started the first 3 games of the season. How can you spend 70 million on a striker and him not start the first 3 games of the season? What a disgrace. He's going to flop. Benjamin Sesko, it's ridiculous. Stop overreacting. Sesko not starting the first 3 games of the season is completely normal. He didn't have a pre-season with us. And even though results haven't been perfect, Mount hasn't put a foot wrong, and Boom hasn't put a foot wrong. Cunha hasn't put a foot wrong. It's not that the player that's playing in his position is doing badly, and he didn't have a pre-season. Sesko will start games for Man United eventually, but it might take 6 or 7 games before we see him start a game in the Premier League. And that doesn't mean we need to cry and think he's going to be a 70 million flop and Amorim's not going to use him. With 3 games into the season and people already have an issue that Sesko isn't starting, and I just think give him a bit of time. Look, if we get here at Christmas time, worry, but give him a bit of time to settle in. Okay, it's normal. It's normal to sign a new player and then not start the first few games. I guarantee you, Ekatike will be starting over Isak in Liverpool's next game, and maybe the game after, and Isak will be coming off the bench just for the time being. Benjamin Sesko did say this about Premier League. He said the level of matches is much higher. The players and teammates are also of a superior level. After all, English is at the top of world football, but I'm really looking forward to what awaits me because I'm improving every day. Benjamin Sesko's come to England. He knows it's a lot harder than Germany. He knows that he's got to work hard. And look, I think he will be a success. I think people are judging him too early. Thank you for watching. Bye.